Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, to some fantastic frantic gameplay in the VRCC, a new premium Italian battle rating 9.0 rank 6 light tank. And this is, if I'm not mistaken, the first Spanish operated vehicle in War Thunder. I tried to train and exercise the pronunciation in Spanish, but no, I won't butcher it. I tried, but it would just not be nice. I mean, I'm somewhat okayish with French, but Spanish I just have no actual practice. So, what is this thing and what can it do and do I like it? Well, first of all, I really like it, and the reason for this is because it's really good in certain aspects, and in others it's not overwhelmingly good, and therefore it has some charm. On the other hand, I love when I can make this thing work, then it has some extra feel to it, and you can endure some of the pain in War Thunder. Now, basically, what this thing is a Centauro 105R, and it is very similar. Mobility armor is a little bit different and firepower is almost the same. So let's talk about it, right? So the armor compared to the tech tree Centauro 105 has no era anywhere. Not on the side, not on the side of the turret. And it has a little bit of spaced armor here and there on the turret front, but that doesn't really matter. It's really paper thin. It's 20 to 15 millimeters. That is not a lot. And well, that's it. Then the mobility, which is really strange because you have a horsepower to ton ratio of roughly 18.5. That's not really staggering, also compared to some main battle tanks at around this battle rating. And for a 28-ton tank, I would expect something more than just only 520 horsepower. But if you are on a paved road and you are on a big map, this is when the mobility of this 8-wheel tank really kicks in, and you can propel it up to 110 kilometers of top speed, just like the Tech 3 version, and in reverse it's still 22 kilometers per hour. Now, I don't have to tell you that through mud and really soft terrain, wheel tanks struggle much more than tanks, which were designed to go through that kind of surface. So, mobility can be really spicy. Armor is absolutely garbage. The tank is also quite big. And then let's talk about the firepower. And the firepower is really what I absolutely like about it, because it's not just about the raw stats, which also have some drawbacks, like the 6 degrees of gun depression and the turret rotation speed, which is just 22.8 degrees per second at best, and also the gun elevation speed of only 8 degrees per second. Those are the drawbacks. For instance, the OF40 MTCA, zero point 0.3 battle rating lower, has 40 degrees per second turret traverse and 20 degrees of gun elevation. That is significantly better, and it really kind of hurts you in brawls and in city fights in general. But on the open map, it absolutely doesn't matter. And you are backed up by really good thermal imaging. You have also a laser rangefinder and a laser warning receiver. You can scout targets, and you also have the new scout drones, which I personally didn't use. I sometimes should have used them, but I just never found the space and the time then when combat actually started to make them work. And yeah, then let's talk about the rest of the firepower, because we have the wonderful 105mm Otto Melara 105/52 cannon with 40 rounds of ammunition. You have the usual 105mm heat round, 400mm of pen. You have a smoke round, you have a hash round, and then you have, as the best APFSTS, the DM33 with 1455 meters per second mass velocity, 408mm of penetration against 0 degrees angles of attack, and at 60 degrees angles of attack it's 236 millimeters. The post-penetration damage effect is also quite nice, and the reload is 6.7 seconds. So it's yeah, your overall normal 105 millimeter gun. And then you have three 7.62 machine guns. You also have, next to the smoke shells, also smoke grenades. And overall, this is a very capable kind of package of tools that you have. And this is just a state where light tanks are really enjoyable in this game. You have so many tools, you can really support your team, you can really make everything work. It's fantastic, and I love it. And I love the gameplay of flanking, of just being that menace on the flank, just being the distraction for the enemy team. On open maps, I absolutely love it, as you can see with the gameplay. Being the hunter, being the menace, being the big threat that the enemy team has to invest so many tanks to go after, so that the rest of my team then can win control of the remainder of the map. And I think that this also shows what War Thunder, when it works, can do. And then I just love War Thunder. I have my certain negative sympathies with the devil here if, it doesn't. But let's stay positive here, and let's just talk about the fact that this thing is just a joy to play. And as a grinder, actually, I recommend it. If you are looking for something different than your Joe average main battle tank, if you have the will to accept some drawbacks for then some outstanding gameplay once in a while, this is your tank. And you have to read the maps differently. You have to be really the one embracing the reconnaissance aspect, being the one that takes out the important targets. You cannot carry all by yourself. Rarely any tank can do this, but the tank is in many ways not really forgiving. Think about the lack of maneuverability, just not being able to turn on the spot as a wheeled tank. There is actually only one exception to this. Then the fact that you have no armor, you're a big target, and while you have overall great firepower, you have only 6 degrees of gun depression, and you have only 22.8 degrees of turret rotation speed, which can be really slow, and also only a gun elevation speed of 8 degrees. Now, I mentioned this earlier, but you must not forget about it, because this can cost you dearly. And you really have to play around this. For me personally, that's just a little bit of a challenge. For me, that's just giving the vehicle a bit of a charm. And to be honest, I think a lot of the Russian or Chinese vehicles would love to have those drawbacks, only those drawbacks, and have some of the other advantages. So, as you can see, when you find your spot, there are rich crops to be harvested, right? And this is then just where the fun begins. Now, obviously, there is the price. It's an expensive premium, I know. And if you're new to the Italians, then this is some vehicle that kind of sets it apart from other NATO countries, if you will, but not completely. And I still think that it really depends on you. If you like to play with wheeled vehicles, or if you just are fed up with it after a couple of battles because of how poorly they are under non-optimal terrain conditions, how you kind of sometimes lack the gun depression, and when you're really somebody that likes to fight around ridge lines, and when you then kind of miss the grunt in the engine. But if you are somebody that wants to explore the possibilities of War Thunder, and you're relatively new to the game, and you really think about dropping some gaijin coins or whatever on the game, then this is it. There is only one big disadvantage to this tank, and that is that it came with this update. So there is, I think, a good chance that it will be not on discount in the 10 years anniversary sale at the end of October, because at the end of October it needs to be 2 patches prior to it to get a discount, which I don't think we get 2 more patches up until that point. And that's really the only real significant downside, the cost and the lack of discount. But that's a different story, and I don't want to talk too much about it. Now, what I really found refreshing, that when I played it today, I really felt remembered to the Centauro days, where you had at times this absurd mobility and you just could appear where the enemy did absolutely not expect you. And also I highly recommend here the driving assistance mode, which you can find in the settings, and I really highly recommend you to play around with it, to exercise a little bit with it. So that is it today for this tank, actually. Now, one final thing is, and this must not be underestimated personally, and that is that the tank has absolute style. I love the design of it. I love just that you have this really long chassis, the 8 wheels, and you also have the rear mounted turret that gives it a little bit of a Italian sports car feel as far as tank goes. And now it sounds weird, but that's a really personal thing to observe. And I don't think there is much more to add, so that's it for me today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like with it, subscribe if you want to see more, and as usual, we will see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.